Okay, can you guys hear me? Welcome, Amanda, Miranda. Can you guys hear me? Just give me a yes. No, maybe so. All right, thank you. Sorry for the late start. I kind of, my computer, I think, realizes that it's Monday, and it's giving me some problems loading all of my stuff. I actually recently downloaded High Sierra for my operating system, so I think that has something to do with it. It just takes a little longer when I'm launching some of my software applications at first. But anyway, so sorry for the delay. Welcome to week 3. How's everybody doing today? Everybody's ready for a new week? Yay! Any questions about last week? Any work that you have questions about? Project questions? Maybe not. Okay, you guys are pretty quiet, so I'm assuming that's probably you're all good. I'm going to take it as you're all good. All right, so I have different programs popping up as I'm talking to you guys. I apologize. I'm trying to get all my stuff organized here. All right, well, we're going to get started into week 3. There's going to be some stuff that we're going to build upon from last week. And you guys basically were dealing with the different color schemes and converting from spot to process. And also, here, hold on, let me get rid of this here. You guys were also doing the posters for your brand, one of your brand identity pieces. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that project. It was, for some of you, there were some issues with placing in the logo correctly. So if you got a response from me on how to do so, listen to the live lecture recording, because I go through each step of each project. So hopefully that'll clarify anything that needs to be revised in regards to comments that I make to your work as well. The assessment was confusing. The actual poster. What was confusing about it? The directions, or?
It wasn't the directions that was confusing. It was mainly like centering everything and making sure everything was still visible while having it centered.
Okay, so it was just a little challenging in regards to like the contrast with the pictures that you had to choose from.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and that's kind of the design challenges that you'll face when you go out there and they give you the pictures that you need to choose from, and then the brand logo and everything else. You just have to try to figure it out and make it work the best that it can be. And I'm here to help guide you guys to fix certain things, just be mindful of certain things. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be design challenges with these projects, but that's basically what you're going to be dealing with when you're out there with a real client. So this is kind of one of those things that you just have to keep working through and trying to find the best solutions to. So yeah, it can be kind of challenging for sure. All right. But I think most of you guys did a great job. I mean, there's just some things to be mindful of that I may mention to you in your feedback. So go ahead and make those revisions, before going forward. You don't have to resubmit it, just, for your own sake of learning and going through that process. It's always good to do. All right, so week 3, what we're going to be going over is announcements, assignment 3, assessment 3, and print production process. We will be going through here as well. The assignment 3, we'll be talking about the discussion as well. I didn't have that up here. So the assignment 3 is basically you guys are going to be working on a trifold brochure That's going to go along with the poster and your color scheme of your brand that you did in week 2. And then assessment 3 is going to be signage of the same logo with specified body copy. All right, Miranda, you said I didn't know if we were allowed to fix the opacity on the picture. Yeah, I mean, you can if that makes sense for what you're doing. You know, if you want to screen it back a little bit, if it works, then yeah, definitely can do that. And I showed some tricks too the last time we met on how to add more contrast in certain spots for the body copy to be readable, as well as the logo. So I saw some of you guys taking advantage of some of those tricks within your poster, so it was nice to see that you guys were implementing that. All right, just, you know, pretty much everything you guys already know. All the assignments and assessments are due by Saturday before midnight Mountain Time. Week 4 assignments, which we're going to get into next week, cannot be turned in late. That's because we have to have our final grades in by a certain time, very close to when you guys submit your work. Your original discussion post is due by Wednesday. Hopefully, I still see a lot of you guys that have not posted to Packback. So if you're still having issues, let me know. I can direct you in a way that, you know, obviously you can get some help for posting there. And I think there's probably 7 or 8 of you that still have not posted to it. So it's important to get those 60 points if you can each week, because it all adds up. All right. Actually, before we get into this, I want to let's open up so I don't forget your discussion 3 here real quick. Let's go over your discussion 3, and let me stop sharing my screen here, because I tend to forget if I don't switch right over to discussion 3. Let's take a look at your objectives for this week as well. So, and a lot of these we're kind of building upon, and some of these we've already gone over on last week and week 1, but it's important to understand what you guys will be walking away from and learning this week, or should be, I should say. Differentiate between Spot, Pantone, RGB, and CMYK color models. Okay, so you're going to be able to differentiate between those. You guys were working with Spot conversion to CMYK last week. Distinguish the similarities and differences between raster images and vector graphics. Distinguish the differences between Pantone, RGB, and CMYK gamut. You guys will be discussing that. Set up margins, gutters, and bleeds in a document for correct pre-press output. And that's really important. You know, pre-press, getting your file ready for print is super important part of the process. So we'll be going over that this week and next week as well. Create a packaged print-ready pre-press file, and then create a print-ready PDF. And those are all pretty much all the things that you're going to be walking away and hopefully learning and accomplishing this week here. Let's see what the discussion is this week. So in Packback, what you're going to do is you're going to read through this background for week 3. I'm not going to read this to you. You go ahead and read that. I will read the prompt. This is basically what you need to answer here. So sometimes customers do not understand the need to maintain the proper file and formats for their material. For instance, a customer asks you to create a billboard using the image of the logo copied from the company website. The customer does not have the original file. How do you approach accomplishing the creation of the billboard? You might consider, will the logo work for what you're required to produce? What would the issues be? Would you tell the client, or what would you tell the client? What do you tell the client? And how does this affect your color gamut? This actually happens a lot, and it's not in regards to always putting it on a billboard, but I've had this experience a lot in my, my past experiences in the advertising agencies and even freelancing. Clients, they don't understand, some of them don't understand what goes into all of this stuff. So they'll hand you something that's a very low res JPEG file, and they want you to use it on several pieces that are like, larger, and you need to, they're like a 1/2 inch big, and they want you to use it, blow it up 200%. So it's you kind of have to think about, okay, how do I approach this? How do I tell the client, the issue here, and what do I say to the client? So sometimes you just have to educate them in a professional way. You know, just tell them, you know, if you can't get the original file, we're going to have to recreate it in like an Illustrator program, a vector-based program. That's typically what needs to be done. I've done that in my past. I've recreated logos because they just couldn't find the original logo. And the one that they gave you is too low res, and it wouldn't work. So, all right. So, you know, talk about what would the issues be? What do you tell the client, and how does this affect your color gamut? Will the logo work for what you're required to produce? You know, you might even have a scenario that you went through with somebody, maybe a friend that needed you to do something for them, or a family member. Maybe it's not necessarily a job that you got paid for. Maybe it was pro bono or working for an organization or whatever. You might want to bring in your own scenario in there. How did you handle that if you had that experience? Okay, so one question that includes, you need to put, at a minimum, you must submit to the PackBack community page URL one main question that includes a valid question of relevance to raster images and vector graphics or color gamut, and its impact or implications for your life or future career. So just make sure you're hitting upon the discussion words, max words, or minimum words, I should say, your 1 citation, 2 responses, and I believe there's an example or a sample down here for this one as well. Let me click on this. Sometimes these are very helpful to kind of get you start thinking about the questions that you can put forth out there on the discussion itself. So I'm going to click on this, and once this opens, I'll share my screen here. Any questions before I show you this example about the discussion? And you know, you could research a lot of the stuff if you're unclear of what color gamut means and what this situation, you know, is all about. You could probably, you know, research different scenarios online as well, and find out, you know, how other people have dealt with that. For some reason, this isn't actually opening here. Oh, maybe it is. Let's see. Here we go. All right, let me share my screen. Got that open. Why is it taking forever? My computer's so slow today. Okay, so here's a question example that you can pose. If your client provides you with a raster file that's a little too small for the project they've hired you for, are there possible solutions you could try to still make it work? So that was the question there. So this is how it was answered. As Stephen Douglas, 2015, cited, explained very well in the article, The Ultimate Guide to Resolution of Logos in Design, the logo as it is wouldn't work for enlarging to the size of a billboard because of the limits of raster images. Copying the logo directly from the website will give you a raster file, an image made of lots of little dots. And enlarging that image to the size of a billboard will cause the logo to pixelate. If the logo is something simple, you could consider creating a vector image yourself that can be enlarged, but you would want to factor the extra work into the fee you charge your client. If the logo is too complicated or converting it would be too time-consuming, you may need to turn down the job or spend time discussing other options with the customer. There's also a complication with the color gamut because the image on the computer will be RGB while printed billboard should be CMYK. You could convert the file and do some experimenting to be sure the colors match, but it will need to be converted, adjusted before it's printed. And then there's the citation. So basically the question that's posed here, they're answering it and the best that they can, looking at all the different perspectives, why wouldn't it work? What's the issues? How can that be worked out? And explaining, in detail what the solutions can be, but then also the complications. So that is definitely a great example. Hopefully that doesn't screw you guys up too much as far as trying to figure out a question. Sometimes, you don't want to look at any examples because it kind of gets you a little stifled, but hopefully that inspires you to kind of think about some questions that you might have. You might not understand a lot of that information. So maybe that's the question that you post. Maybe it's something that you've always wondered about in regards to vector and raster images and the differences between them. Okay, any questions about that? Hopefully that was explained clearly enough. So when you're ready to post the question, just go right back to the Packback questions. Okay, good. And then, you know, post your question here. The only thing I will say, and to be completely honest, the only thing I don't like about Packback in regards to each week is there's no real like separation between our weeks. So it's really hard because they all kind of run together. What you guys might want to do, and I've had one of you guys do this, and I thought, oh, that's a really great idea, is when you ask the question, when you go to click ask a new question, before you write the question, maybe you say week 3 with a little colon and then start your question. And then, you know, it's just easy to see that like, okay, this is in regards to week 3 for everybody to see it and to comment on so it's not all kind of mushed together. I saw somebody do that and I said, oh, that's a really great idea. So I wanted to maybe suggest that for you guys. All right, now that that is all good, hopefully we're all good with that. If you have any questions, you know, as you're going forward with that, let me know in regards to the discussion. Okay, so let's get right into the nitty-gritty, the printing process. This is something that I've had schooling before my undergrad, and I don't know if I just something that I thought wasn't as important at the time. And then when I actually got to a job in the advertising agency out of school, this became super important because this is definitely a process that you need to know as a designer. It's not just all about designing. You have to deal with the end part of it as well. So here are some steps, and we're going to go through these bullet points here and then a little bit more in detail for each step as we go forward. So you guys hopefully will understand part of this process here. So when you're starting a project, what you want to do in step 1 is define the project. You're going to gather all the requirements of the project. So it's like when you have a client come to you and you do like a design brief for them, you're gathering all that information, the budget, when it's printing, when they need it, all the requirements, you know, within that project will be in the design brief. So budget, schedule, you're going to discuss the output of the quality and initial design ideas. So it's not just about concepts in regards to what you're doing, but also the output and the quality of it. Because that really determines how you're going to handle the overall and launching part of the project. So, you know, if you know it's going to be a long process for the printer to print, you need to implement that into your budget or into your schedule as well as your budget. So it's really important to know the scope of the project, and gathering all those requirements will help define the project. Then once you get that completed, you're going to go into step 2. You're going to select vendors. So you're going to evaluate printers and service providers. If you're working for someone, they might already have those selected. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go with them. Sometimes they're open to other ones if they, you know, if it's better. But typically, if you're working for someone, they do have their own, you know, preferred vendors or printers and service providers. You're going to establish a process. So you're going to kind of select the vendor, choose the elements of the project, the paper and the ink, you know, what's it, you want coated or uncoated. Maybe you're doing a bigger piece, you know, there's fly paper in there, which means transparent paper, maybe textured for the cover. Maybe there's metallic inks that you want to deal with. So there's a lot involved, and it depends on the project, but this is where you kind of get all that information together. So you're establishing a process. And then you go into step 3, which is pre-press and design. So you're going to assign elements of the job, implement the design, craft the project, prep files for output, and review the design. So it seems like very simple, but there's a lot of work that goes into that too. So it's kind of the design part of it and the review. You're prepping and reviewing the designs. Very important because you want to make sure that everything is ready and properly prepped for output. If not, you might spend all this time on a project, put all this blood, sweat, and tears into it, and then the output isn't as great because you didn't put the time into kind of thinking ahead for the best process for it. Step 4, hand off and proof. So this is where you kind of hand your project off to either a printer, client, discuss printing issues that you might have, send files to film, print, pre-press. You'll send them to the actual printer, and then establish a proofing method. You might do something where you get proofs sent to you because you can't make it to the press check or it's too far away. Say the press is too far away. So they send it to you via, courier. You can get it within a day or so. You sign off on it. Proofs are basically you'll get, whatever you want in proof. Say you just want the cover. You want to see what that's going to look like when it's printed, and they'll send you the cover and they'll charge you for it. But you see it before it actually goes to print. You could save a lot of money in that regards if you're really worried about maybe the texture of the paper with whatever the ink that you're using or the color of the logo and how it's going to look on this paper. And if you have a client that's, and very important that you don't want to screw the project up, you might want to do the proofing method. I have done press checks where you actually go to the press yourself, and when it goes off, they'll run a couple runs and then they'll have you proof it. So you press check it and then you sign off on it. And sometimes the clients are there. I've had many instances where the clients are right next to you looking at it too, and then they sign off on it, which is like actually the best scenario. If they miss something and they sign off on it, then it's their butts on the line. So it's not like, it's all your responsibility at that point. Okay, and then step 5, proof and print. So check placement of graphics and copy. This is like through the press check itself. Review press proofs and observe assembly. So you can actually, typically if you are involved with a printer or a vendor, they do like to give you like a tour, or step through, or give you samples and kind of educate you on their process. So it's kind of it's kind of a cool experience. We've had printers come to our place of employment and just gives us tons of samples of paper samples, and they always like to come with food and try to woo you in on their products too. So it's kind of nice. You might get some free candy out of it, but yeah, I mean it's definitely an important part of the process because you don't want to just choose something that that you're not going to see, that's not going to be right for the project itself. So the printing process is important. So again, defining your project, this is the step 1. So specifications and requirements, budget, some things to think about: quality, quantity, longevity of the piece. You're going to schedule file submission, production, so proofs, revisions, delivery. You're going to actually talk to the printer when the proofs can be shown, revisions can be done, and when the delivery of the product will be. And that way you're all on the same schedule and your client is on board with you as well, and you're hitting that deadline. Design concept, special requirements that need to happen. That's kind of where you need to speak with the client and or the vendor. RFQ and selecting vendors. So your company or your printer will most likely have a setup for a bid sheet or a request for quote. RFQ is another abbreviation for that. Some details may vary, but usually the following information need to be included. So they might have something to fill out where you have to put the contact information, page count, binding, paper type and weight, color job information, and quantity before you actually get a quote from them back so that you're ready to print with them. You will need to plan out these details with your printer so you know their capabilities. They might not be able to do what you're wanting them to do. Some printers don't have, certain bindings or run as long of a job as far as the quantity that you need. So, it could be limitations that you might not know about until the end, and then you're stuck if you're totally sold on them and you go with them and then they can't do it. So you want to make sure you're on the same page. You can also ask for comparison bids in different materials and quantities and from different vendors. Yeah, typically we would bid out at least 2 or 3 different vendor printers on jobs, and then they would come back with quotes and extra information to kind of sway our decision on who to choose. Some of them might be super busy and can't meet your deadline. You know, it's happened a lot of times where they're like, you know what, we have a lot of big jobs coming through. We can't get this out for over a month, and that's not going to work for your project. So that's really important to understand and when you're ready to, you know, choose a printer and a vendor. Working with your printer, other details you will have to work out in cooperation with your printer are timelines. So deadlines for file submission, proofs, press checks, and production and eventual shipping. Again, that's something that you need to know how long it's going to have, how long will it take for them to print out proofs and do a press check and actually do the prints. And then also, when do they need the files in order for it to print during this deadline, and shipping, you know, if they're actually shipping it from their place, their location, you need to know when that's happening as well. Price per sheet, complete job. So you need to know that, you know, ask them, you know, what is this per sheet? You know, what's the full complete job as far as the price goes, so that you're all on the same page. And you can bid out different printers that way too, kind of get the lowdown there. Each company have different methods and processes. This is only a rough overview. Sometimes you will need to add information later in the process as well. So working with your printer is a team effort. It's important to build a relationship through good communication. This is, you know, I mean, this goes for anything, but yeah, definitely through your printer. If they see any problems, they foresee something going on, they need to be, you know, they need to talk to you about it. You need to be open about it. I've had situations where printers it could be a nightmare scenario where they're not communicating with you until the last minute, and then you're kind of put into a bind, and it happens. So you want to make sure that you're also communicating with them, that you need to talk to them and have them contact you as soon as possible if there's any issues that arise. You know, it's just one of those things. Okay, so let's talk about the printing process in regards to pagination, imposition, and signatures. And we're working in InDesign, the layout program. It will order the pages as you view them in the finished binding. So you can see right there in the pages preset, or palette, I should say. It's showing you the pages in order based on the printing layout. This includes a front and back and 2-page spreads. To utilize both fronts and backs of each page in a spine-bound print job, you need to have a multiple of 4 for your page count, or some pages end up blank. It's really important to understand that. Sometimes it's really hard to understand that until you're actually doing it and then putting it together in a mock-up, and you're like, okay, how is this going to work? That's why mock-ups are really important too. So why do page counts for printing multiples of 4 important? You know, why page counts for that? So during printing, your pages are printed on large sheets of paper that holds, and this depends on your book size, 8, 16, or 32 pages. All multiples of 4. And the next slide, you will see this large sheet of paper known as a parent sheet with 8 pages printed on both sides. So 16 total, so 8 on one, 8 on the other side. After printing, these sheets are folded and inserted into your book as a whole unit. If your page count was not a multiple of 4, you would be left with blank pages throughout your book. So here's the visual example of folding a parent sheet. You can see that there are, excuse me, the 4 on one, 4 on the other, and then also on the flip side. And this is how they're folded. So if you go through fold number 1, it's folded in half, fold it again, number 2, and you can see the pages coming together for fold number 3. And then after binding, the 3 sides are trimmed to open the pages. It's actually more complicated than you probably would think, but I mean, it looks like it, but it's actually not too complicated. It's something you have to think about. So it consists in the arrangement of the printed product pages on printer sheets in order to obtain faster printing, simply binding and reduce paper waste, Imposition is one of the fundamental steps in the pre-press printing process, and your printer will set this up for your bid and file. So that's something that is definitely they do on their end. You will be, giving them your InDesign file, and they'll be prepping that. Most publications are produced by printing 8 pages, one on one side of a large paper sheet, then 8 more pages on the other side. A 16-page signature is what that's called. This can vary depending on your page and paper size. This large sheet is then folded and trimmed, and the resulting set of pages is called a signature. So there's some terminology there. When you talk about bleeds and trims, to accommodate the slight variations that will happen as the sheet is fed through the printer and the pages are trimmed, you need to set up your pages with a bleed. Your printer will determine what your bleed should be, so usually a 1/8, so 0.125 inches. It's also important that your design allows for the space the binding will take up in the spine. There's standard, digest, landscape, flyer. So, the printer might have, they will definitely have specifications for you. So going into their website or asking for their specifications prior to setting up your files is important. You might have a set page size that's custom, that's fine. But the bleed, they might want more than 1/8 bleed, for example. But typically it is about a 1/8 bleed. But make sure you're on the same page with that. There's different bindings to think about if you're doing a multiple page document that needs to be bound. There's so many different binding options. There are 3 ring option here. It's 3 punch holes in the left side of the printed pages, a common format for 3 ring binders. There's the spiral kind, so coils wound through the top or left margins of printed pages. There's saddle stitch, 2 or more staples inserted at fold. And the perfect all signatures put together and then ground down and paper cover glued around spine is the perfect one. Let me open up this link here. I think this is a really cool resource here. Let me open this up and give it to you. designersinsight.com/designer. Once I get this, I will copy and paste it in the actual chat area for you guys too. It's not going. Hold on one second. Let me try to find it. It says not found for some reason. Maybe I typed it in wrong. Really? Let's see. Choosing the right binding type. This link might not be good anymore. Let me see. Yep. Let's see. It's not letting me open it. Bear with me here 1 second. I'll try to find a better link for you guys. Okay, here's this one. I'm going to paste it in here. Yeah, for some reason that link's not working. You could probably look this up. It seems like there's a lot of different resources for this. But I just wanted to show you, and that link that's on that slide doesn't work for some reason. I apologize. My messages stopped working. The different types of binding, and they actually visually show it here, and then they describe it on the right. So if this is something that you want to look into, and a lot of the printers will also have their website with information like this on there, so you can kind of see what they offer and what they do. These are the different bindings that you have. So there's a lot of different types of bindings here. There's this one. I think you can click on that. I'm trying to find a good visual one for you guys here. These didn't work. You could also do like an image search for that. I'm sure they probably have infographics. Here's one that's kind of cool. They actually just show you which, which is what's your saddle stitch. Let me open this up if I can, get this a little bit bigger. Oh, it takes me to Pinterest. There we go. So here's saddle stitch, side stitch, side sewn, screw and post, perfect. I mean, there's so many neat different ways, rivet that printers can, depending on the printer, can do, but pretty cool. All right, any questions about that so far? It seems pretty overwhelming, but I think once you get into that routine of the process steps to go through, especially when you're working in the field, it gets easier. Okay. So some projects may be folded instead of bound. This requires that you think carefully about how the different sides of the sheet will flow together once they're folded. And sometimes we don't think about that as far as the space needed, maybe in between where the fold is. The best way to envision this is to make a physical mock-up and lay out your document accordingly. There are also templates available that you can use to help you lay out a folded printed document. I can't tell you how many mock-ups I've made in my past because it's just hundreds and hundreds. And this is a great way a mock-up is basically you're printing it out on your own. So I would be in an advertising agency and I'd print it out. We'd have a printer and then you cut it out and you'd paste it together or put it together and how it would look. Obviously it's not the complete final. It's not going to look exactly like the final, but you get the idea of how it's going to look. And maybe if you don't have the pages set up correctly or folded correctly, that's where you find a lot of mistakes that you can it could be very costly. So, and trust me, I have done many revised mock-ups because I've noticed something that I've maybe messed up and I needed to go back and revise. So it really does save you the embarrassment from showing the client something that you totally did wrong, and then also gets you thinking about, okay, how is this actually going to be printed? Is this actually going to work? You can actually hold the piece itself and work with it before it's actually printed and fix anything that needs to be fixed before. Types of folding. So you have 4-page, 6-page. There's different types of folding. So, you might have options where you want to do the 8-page gatefold because you think that would make a better presentation on what you're doing. These types of foldings would be good to pick out first before even doing the design so that you can set up your pages to reflect these options. There's different papers. It's amazing how many different papers there are. When the paper rep comes to your place or sends you stuff, you will be overwhelmed with how many different options there are. Not only is it like texture, but it's weight, it's color. It's just so many different kinds. It's like when you go to Lowe's or Home Depot and you see all those swatches. It's like that where it just kind of overwhelms you. But so text and cover stock are many types of measurements. The weights of the paper matter. If you're doing a cover for something that needs to feel expensive and important, you might want to go with a thicker stock paper for the cover. There's also color, more than one white, so you have different types of whites. Coating, uncoated, you have to pick out what you think is best. You might not want to go with a gloss for a cover because it might not be, if you have a lot of stuff that you need to read on the cover, you might not choose gloss because it will be hard to read with a reflection on it. So uncoated might be the way to go. If you just have a photograph on it, you might want to go with the gloss option. So there's so many different, reasons why you would go either way. Finishes, do you want it to be textured? Do you want to have it toothiness to it? Do you want the person to really feel something in the paper when they're holding it, or do you want it to be super smooth? So some things to think about. Software and files. So PDF files are the standard for print job submissions, typically. Photoshop image editing, pixel-based software. You know, when you're talking about Photoshop, that is a raster-based program. That means it's pixel dependent. It needs pixels to come up with the images that it's showing. Illustrator is the opposite. It's a vector-based program, and that's where you do your logos, your icons, and typography typically, because it's based on a mathematical equation that will never be dependent upon pixels. So you can blow it up to billboard plus size, and it will never be pixelated. It will be very sharp, and that's why we do logos and other things in there. But when you're dealing with images, photographs, and, you know, revisions and photo manipulations, that's where Photoshop is the best place to go, because you can actually manipulate those little pixels so that you can, you know, make it look different, enhance it, or change it. InDesign is a combination of text and images, superior for double-sided and multi-page documents, packages, print-ready files as well. Acrobat also has some pre-flight capabilities with PDF files. So typically, if you're a graphic designer and you're working on a project and you have a multiple page document, say if you're working on a magazine, I've done this many times, I will use all 3 programs during that time period. I will pull the images into Photoshop to get them print ready, convert them to the color mode they need to be, change the photographs if I need to revise them, size-wise, color-wise, saving out as a file to import into either Illustrator or InDesign. Usually it's InDesign. Then I'll go to Illustrator and design whatever, the logo, whatever elements that need to go on the cover of the magazine or inside the magazine, icons, different little typography icons if needed. And then once we're ready to go, we pull all that into InDesign to lay it out. So you're importing not only from Photoshop, but also Illustrator. You're importing your files. So it's important to understand how to export them out, what file format it needs to be, so that you can do it correctly and it shows the best that it can once it's printed. So InDesign is typically the last program that you kind of lay everything out in. And it's an easy program to do multiple pages in. It's an easy program to align your copy and deal with different typography situations and setups, and then also to export your final files for print. Not saying that you can't do everything in Illustrator and Photoshop, but that's typically the right way to go. So that's kind of the input from my experience in terms of bigger projects. You might have a project that's strictly done in Illustrator. Maybe it's an ad that doesn't have a lot of copy, and that's where it was created. Then you do an Illustrator. But typically, InDesign is the last layout program that you want to end in when creating your pieces. All right, any questions so far? I've been talking for almost 45 minutes here. All right, so before we go into the demo, I'm gonna let's do a 5-minute break. So I'm gonna grab some candy here to get me going, and a drink. So let's do a 5-minute break. We'll come back and we'll go over your assignment 3 and your assessment 3. I'll do the demo step by step, and then we'll go from there. Sound good? All right, I'll meet you guys back here in 5 minutes. Okay, can you guys hear me? Sorry if I scared you. I don't know about you guys, but I am just coming off of a cold and I have been blowing my nose for the last 3 days, like nonstop sicknesses for the last 2 weeks. I guess that's what happened when you have a little kid that's going through preschool. Anyway, it's like 5 minutes of blowing my nose. Oh no, man, I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, I'm just starting to get better, so hopefully. Oh no, you have an ear infection. See, I think everybody's sick. I think this is just, we're gonna be sick until like spring. Let's hope not. I had strep throat a couple weeks ago, and that was crazy. And then I have this cold that I got from my daughter again. It's one thing after another. All right. Well, hopefully you guys feel better. It's not fun being sick, but I guess that's that time of year. All right. So you guys are going to be working on a trifold brochure, and it's for the kayak brand that you guys have been working on. And you guys, I'm going to go through this, and then we'll go actually look at the actual project specifications in class. So this is just a rundown of what you guys will be doing. So you'll need incorporate the following at least 3 photos. Oh no, Miranda. You had strep all summer and then had my tonsils removed when I was pregnant. Jeez, that's crazy. Yeah, I still have my tonsils. I always want to take them out, but I'm like, no, I need them. Yeah, that's tough when you're pregnant for sure. Okay, so at least 3 photos, your final color logo and palette. Paragraph styles, so you're going to be in InDesign doing paragraph styles. You're going to be supplementing all or putting in all text from the file aquatext.docs, which is provided in the project specifications. The flat size will be 9 inches by 11.875 inches, so it'll be landscape format, 2-sided. You're going to have margins set up at 1/4 of an inch, so 0.25. Your columns will be 3. You'll have a 1/2 inch gutter width. Your bleed size will be 1/8, and then your color space will be CMYK. Submission specifications, you're going to have a print-ready PDF, packaged InDesign file, and zipped, and the required names. Let's go ahead and look at the actual project specs because it's a little bit more involved here. All right, so this is the background information you guys will be reading. And this just all explains, about bleeds and margins and gutters. I'm going to go right down to the prompt. I'm going to read this over. Let me know if you have any questions. So brochures can be very powerful marketing tools if handled in the correct way. It is important that your approach to the brochure maintains any corporate branding that has been established while making an impression on the target audience. Here are a few brochure design tips to help you begin your project. So know who your target audience is. What is their age? What is their income? What role do they have in the family? Are they primarily male or female? What is important to them? The more you hone in on a specific target audience, the better off you'll be because you'll be able to really talk with them visually through the elements and design elements that you choose. It doesn't mean that you're going to ignore everybody else, but you need to specifically speak to that target audience in order to have an effective concept. Spend considerable time designing the cover of your brochure. It is the reason a potential client will pick it up or pass it by. Sometimes I like to leave the cover of whatever I'm working on to the end because sometimes it's almost like a book where you go through the whole book and then you decide, okay, this is what the cover should be. Sometimes that's very helpful. Create a cohesive visual roadmap throughout your brochure, making it easy to follow and understand by using properly sized gutters, consistent margins, and a well thought out folding pattern. This is something that everybody struggles with, and I know a lot of the students struggle with, so we'll talk about that as we go into the demo here. Just things to be aware of. Put first things first, so lead with strength and then give details. That just means, from cover to inside. Use style sheets to maintain consistency within the type. Remember, there should be no more than 3 sizes and 2 fonts used in your brochure. So make sure you're paying attention to that. Keep your colors consistent and few no more than 2 or 3 colors total. And that's not your photographs. It doesn't include your photographs, obviously, but any other elements that you have. Employ the big 4 design principles to create focal points, hierarchy, and unity within your design. Utilize a grid system to give you strong structure upon which to build. All right, so you must include the following. Here's the nitty gritty stuff here. So at least 3 photos. You're going to download the approved photos. Go ahead and click on that. And this is a folder with, these are the only photos that you're allowed to use. Let me open that up and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so this is what I'm showing here. So this is the folder. It's called Kayak Bro Photos Brochure. Here are the actual photographs in there. So if, you might want to download this right away. So you have this. Some are horizontal, some are vertical, some have action shots. Some are just aesthetic shots. So really kind of look at this and say, okay, I can see maybe this being on the cover, this being on the inside, and it kind of gets you started with, okay, well, how am I going to order this? So that's important to kind of take a look at the pictures, see how you're going to start. And then pull that folder into a final assignment 3 folder. So you have the pictures to have. You're going to have your final color logo and palette included, paragraph styles, all text from the aquatext.docs document. So you're going to click on that and let me open this up. So this is all the text that needs to be included within your brochure. Just give a moment here. It's opening my program up. All right, so this is what the document looks like if you're going to open it up in Word. Sorry, I didn't have that program open. Front cover, this is what goes on the front cover here. So logo, and then this verbiage down here. So anything in red, you're not going to obviously put in there, and then logo represents the logo, obviously. Front or back cover, so you can have this on the front or back, contact information. And then the other required copy is kind of placed in here. Now, this can be switched around. You can have the About Us maybe on the flap, the panel that's on the side of the cover, the last flap. You can kind of mix and kind of rearrange this. And I'll show you how I'll do it so that you can get an idea of the options that you have. This is all the information that needs to be in the trifold. Okay, so have this kind of open and ready to go. All right, and save it out onto your desktop, into your folder. All right, so then that's all good. That's what you need to incorporate. You need to do this in InDesign. Here's the final size. Okay, it folds to 4 inches by 9 inches. The margins are 0.325, bleeds 1.25, and color space is CMYK. Okay, and then pre-press, so you need to, and I'll show you how to convert all of your images to CMYK. All images placed at correct resolution for print at 300 pixels per inch. Images not scaled below, just make sure they're not scaled below 80% or higher than 120. And that's in regards to when you place them into InDesign. All spot colors converted to CMYK. Bleeds correctly implemented. Margins and gutters properly positioned. Document package for print. Those are the pre-press requirements. All right, submission requirements. So when you're ready to go, you're going to name your file as such for your InDesign file. You're going to export the InDesign file to a press quality PDF, include crop marks and bleeds. Note that this is a different setting than the print quality, so you want to make sure press quality is chosen. Package the InDesign file. Note, make sure that there are no errors in the report. If there are, fix them and repackage for submission. You're going to place the press quality PDF into the package folder and zip, and then upload the zip file. Keep all the native files you use to create this brochure for possible revisions after this course has ended. You will need them for your portfolio or capstone classes. Okay. Any questions so far? I'm going to go over all of this. So if you want to wait for the questions till you see me do it, then we'll go forward with that. All right. Let's do it, guys. Let's open up InDesign here. And make sure you have Photoshop open as well, because we're going to be checking out your photos. All right. Let me put this way up here so you can see. All right, so let's organize this a little bit. So you're going to go File, New, Document. This little palette or preset box will come up. Uncheck the facing pages. You don't need that. We're going to just do 2 pages. So number of pages, put 2. You don't have to worry about the start page changing. The final page size should be the width of that should be 11.875 by 9 inches. Okay. All right. The gutter specified in the actual project specs is, do we have a gutter size? We have margins, bleeds. We don't have a gutter size. Okay, let's go to margins then. The margins are 3.325. And then you just click on this little link so that they all are proportionate to that size. Go ahead and click on that little arrow where it says bleed and slug. And just in the top here, you want to place in the bleed size. So you want to put the 1/8 bleed in there. And again, just click on that little link so that all of your bleeds are being set top, bottom, left, and right. Everything else looks good. I'm trying to look and see if I have everything. That looks good. Okay, number of columns. You can kind of change this. I'm going to do 3 just because we're going to do 3 columns in each of our panels here. Click OK. I don't know why my computer's so slow today, but bear with me here. Okay, so this is what I'm going to go up to pages here. So I have 2 pages. You can see them right here. There we go. Okay, so you have the bleeds, you have your margin, guides, everything's ready to go. So these purple lines won't print. They're just for your own visual way of organizing your information. Okay, so just to kind of give you a heads up, let's draw a little thing up here so you guys are, because this can be confusing to some of you guys, I understand. So when you're looking at this first page, this is your left flap. This is your back panel. And this is your cover. All right, so I've had a lot of students that will put the cover on this side where the left flap is, but when it's printed, these are put together, so of course the cover is going to be on the right side. So this will be the back panel, so when it's folded, this will be what you see when you flip the brochure over in one flip, and then your left flap. If you're confused about it, you might want to print it out yourself or look at a brochure that you have at home. This is the inside, so it would be inside flap, inside left flap. And then inside right flap. All right. I think the one thing that's just always confused is the cover up here. But if you were to print these out, you would paste this on the flip side of this and then fold it here so that this is the cover and it opens. When you're folding it completely together, then this is your back panel. That's important. So it's kind of in a flat position. Okay. All right, so the next thing that I would say is go ahead and open up Photoshop. What we're going to do is we're going to look at these photos and what we're going to use. And we're going to convert them, make sure the size is right. So go ahead and grab that folder that you downloaded with all the kayak images that were given to you. So, okay, good question, Miranda. She asked what are facing pages used for? Facing pages is used for, say, like documents that have a left and a right page, like a magazine, something that's going to be bound in the middle. So, and I can show you real quickly what I'm talking about there. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so go through, and I'll show you 1 second, Miranda, what I'm talking about in regards to that. So go through these images, pick one that you think, okay, pick your cover image, the ones that you think are going to work for the cover. I'll look through all this. I don't know if you guys can see what I'm doing here, but let me see. Okay, so this one, for instance, I'm going to open up and use for my cover shot. I already kind of decided. You don't necessarily have to use this one as your cover. I just decided to do it. But go ahead and open up any of the images that you're going to use. You want to make sure that you go up and check on the size, resolution, and color mode of each. Okay, so you're going to go up to image. You're going to go to mode. Right now it's telling me it's an RGB color mode. I need to switch this to CMYK. So I do that. I just switch it to CMYK. Click OK. Then I go up to image size. Yours might look different than mine. This is already set at a high resolution, pixels per inch, so I'm good. Inches is fine. Everything looks great. So I'm going to click OK. If this said 72, this would definitely need to be changed. You need to go in here and change it to 300 and make sure it downsizes to a reasonable size here and click OK. Then I'm going to save it out as a TIFF file. So File, Save As. Click on the format and choose TIFF. This is the best format to save it as because it doesn't throw out any pixel information. It keeps it very high res and is the preferred format for print. Okay, so that's my cover shot. Now I'm going to open up maybe I already have a design in mind, so I'm going to open up the images that I want to manipulate here. So go up to color mode, change to CMYK, image size, 300, everything looks good. So I'm going to click OK. Lucky me. I'm going to go File, Save As. And again, TIFF file. What other pictures did I do here? Hold on. All right, so I think I did on the inside, kayak 4, kayak 1, I'm going to open up all the ones that I have planned to go in there. All right, so this one, I'm going to go up to image mode, CMYK. Looks good. Image size. Okay, so this one's set at 200. I would change this to 300. Now it's going to make this much smaller. As long as you're not scaling it too high percentage-wise, it should work at this size. So this wouldn't work for a cover shot, but this would work for a smaller picture, say on the inside of the brochure. Save it as a TIFF file. Okay, go to the next image. Change the color mode again. Check the image size. Again, change it to 300 pixels per inch, 5 inches, that's fine. File, save as, and a TIFF file. Same thing, CMYK color mode. Image size, 300 looks good. It's actually a big image. TIFF file, looks good. It's a cute shot, CMYK. Yeah, so any images that you use, you need to check on this and save it out before you do anything. That's the typical routine of the process here. I saved this one out too, I think, yeah. Okay, so when you're done, you have them all in a folder, go back into your InDesign layout here, and you're gonna place it in. So I'm gonna take my rectangle frame tool, once I can change here. One second, my computer is just so slow today for some reason. Driving me nuts. It's driving me insane. All right, let's do this. All right. So I'm going to take my rectangle frame tool, and I'm going to just, because I know what my concept's going to look like, I'm going to take the rectangle frame tool and just cover the bleed all the way to that red line, my full image, because I want that image to bleed off of all 4 of my actually 3 of my sides. The other one on this side will just kind of come over here. So I'm just placing my cover image here. And the reason why I'm going a little bit beyond this is because I'm going to have it fade out a little bit here. Okay, so I'm going to do a Command D, which is File, Place. And once my computer catches up here, I will place this image in. It's taking forever. Sorry, guys. Okay, here we go. Oh, really? Okay. So I saved the TIFF files. That's what I want to place in here. They're going to be larger files because they're high-res image files. So for instance, this one's 22.9 megabytes. And that's okay because they're supposed to be like that. They will be larger sizes. I think, is this the one? Yeah, this is the one for the cover. Let me place this in. The one thing to pay attention to when you place them into InDesign, when you place them in there, double click on it. Look up here in the X and Y coordinates and make sure that you're not going above 120% for the blowing it up percentage. You can go lower if you want. I'm going to go up to Object. I'm going to choose Fitting and Fill Frame Proportionately. That'll kind of place it in a little bit better with my bounding box here. If you double click on it, the red box will appear and that'll show you kind of the image that isn't showing in this blue bounding box that may be showing, that may be access image. So I already know I have more on the left and the right here, maybe not the top and the bottom to deal with. All right, so that's placed in there for the cover. Then I'm going to take my rectangle frame tool. You don't have to do a background image. You could do a color if you want. But I'm going to do a background image. I'm going to do Command D. And this one, again, I have as a TIFF file. Place that in there. Object. Fitting. And you can double click on this and move it around based on what you want to show on that image. When you're ready to unclick, just click right off of it. Okay, I'm going to blend these two images together. So I'm going to select my kayak picture and I'm going to go over here into my toolbox and choose the gradient feather tool. And I'm going to click to the right, click from the left to the right before that edge of that bounding box appears. And you can see that I'm getting a transparent type of, if you hold down the Shift key, it kind of goes proportionately here. I'm getting kind of a transparent white because that's what's behind there. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to choose this cover, go over to my gradient blend tool, and I'm going to do the same thing here. Make sure I don't have a stroke on it. Yeah. Oh, my Photoshop just quit. I think that's why I was having problems. All right. And then I'm just going to shift this to the right a little bit. I double clicked on my background just to fill in the white gap here a little bit better. And then the same thing over here. Okay. Let me show you what this looks like before that. So it looks kind of weird now, but once I get all the other information in there, you'll kind of understand why I did what I did. So this is the cover, this is the back panel, and then this is the left flap. I'm going to go ahead and place that same image so we keep it consistent from bleed to bleed. And it works. It works for this size as far as the image that I chose. Fill place in there. All right. Well, the next thing I want to do is I want to import that logo. Remember the logos that we did? So I'm going to place it in here. I'm going to take the rectangle frame tool, do a Command D, go to my desktop. I think I had the logo in here. File place. Oh, I'm probably going to make it smaller. This is way too big. See, 136. I'm going to make this like 80. Let's see what that looks like. Object fitting center content. That looks pretty good. You don't want to be too big. You want enough white space on the left and the right, and you don't want it to be too far up on the top. This is probably a good spot to be in. We still have to have our headline in there that was given to you guys. In the Word file, go back to that Word file. It tells you what to put on the front cover, what to put on the back or front cover, other required copy. So I know that this is my headline. I'm going to copy that. So Command C, go back to my InDesign file, take my type tool, and I'm going to draw out my type box and do a Command V, so paste. You know, it's up to you if you want to start doing a paragraph style. Do you guys know how to do paragraph styles? Just curious. Do you guys, have you worked with paragraph styles and character styles? Okay. So it's just an easy way to set up a style that you're going to always kind of use repetitively within your project. So what you can do is choose a typeface, obviously, that's going to work and be appropriate for the piece. I'm going to go Futura, try medium condensed here, and then make it larger because we are dealing with a headline. So I'm going to go do a shift return after tours so that I have a nice little break there. And then I'm going to center that. So right now, this is Futura medium condensed at 30 points. I can even maybe make this a little bit different, maybe more bold than the other style there. 36, 30, maybe pull it in a little bit. Let's do 33 for the leading. And then pull this down away from the logo. So I'm going to pull the logo up actually. Give a little bit more of a visual pause in between there. And then I can take the color. So I'm going to highlight it with my type tool. I'm going to take my eyedropper tool and I'm going to sample. I should have had that selected, sorry. I had the wrong thing selected here, hold on. Oops. All right, I'm all messed up today. Okay, let me sample that color. I'm gonna go to swatches. So go to color, swatches under window. And I'm just gonna pull this swatch in here or double click on it and add it to the swatch here. Add CMYK swatch. I'm gonna do the same with the blue. That way I have the red and the blue. And then also the gray. So if you have the 3 colors that you're going with, you want to add those to your swatches, okay? Okay, so then you can take your type tool and choose the appropriate color that you want to use in your typeface or your copy. Pull this a little bit further down. Okay, the next thing is I can put my contact information on the back, or, and I'm pulling this from that Word file that was given to you guys, or I can put it on the front. I'm just going to do it on the front. I'm going to take my rectangle. I'm going to do a paragraph style with that. I forgot to do that. Okay. I'll show you guys how to do that real quick. I'm going to do a rectangle here. I'm going to do a white one. So I'm going to fill it with white. I'm going to take my type tool and I'm going to create a box kind of in the middle here. And then paste that info that was given to you guys in the Word file. I'm going to center it. Everything's centered, so I want to keep it consistent. You make it red. You make it a little bit larger. Oops, not that large. Pull this down a little bit. And then I'm going to make my box. I'm going to go up here to my, I selected that white box. I'm going to go up to here to my gradient. I'm going to dial this down a little bit because I want maybe that texture to kind of show through there. So it's not so blocky. See how that works there? I might even pull this in a little bit. Okay. And then just make sure it's centered. Kind of works for that. Pull this down to my guide. Okay, so that's my cover. All right, I'm going to save this as DES114 assignment 3 _ my first and last name. So this is my InDesign file. I should have saved this a while ago, but I got carried away. All right, so if you want to set up your paragraph style, what you'll do is go up to Window, and you'll go up to Style, or go down to Styles, choose Paragraph Styles. And this will set more than one body copy to a specific paragraph style so that you can go back and repeat that. So this is all different here. Because I did 2 different things, it's going to be kind of weird. All right, so I'm going to select, let's select this information because you can use this as a subhead in the rest of my brochure. I'm going to do select all. I'm going to go to paragraph styles. I'm going to click on the upper right hand corner lines here, the other line selections on the top right. I'm going to do new paragraph style, and I'm going to name this subhead. And everything that I just set that to should be set in here in regards to the style. So if I click on basic character formats, it's going to tell me what that typeface is set to, what the style is, what the size is, the leading, even the color. If I already chose a color, this is where you can edit it. Click OK. And then go ahead and select what you want to be the subhead style and choose subhead in your paragraph styles to assign it. So then, anytime you have copy in there, like subhead copy, you don't even have to do everything step by step that I did before. You just choose the subhead with it selected. So I'll show you here in a second. I'm going to choose the rectangle tool because I want to set this up here. Do my guides, which I'm pulling out my ruler guides. And I'm going to pull down a rectangle. Okay, that's going to be white with no stroke. Oh, come on. White with no stroke. And then this white will be dialed down as far as the opacity goes. So I have, I'd say maybe like 80% white. We'll see how that works. Once you have that done, just do an Alt drag and that just copies it so that you can easily get that in there. Easily duplicate that without having issues. I'm going to do Alt drag again. Alt drag. So using these boxes will definitely allow my copy to be easier to read because I have such a busy background. And that was my whole intent behind that. All right, so remember how I said you don't have to go in order when you place in the copy here? Let me show you what I'm talking about. So in here, it's giving me the copy information. Well, I want my About Us to be on the back panel, and the About Us is kind of down here. So I'm just going to copy this section here. I'm going to highlight it, and then I'm going to just place that right here on the back panel. So I'm going to take my text box. You can pull out your guides if you need to. Kind of keep it consistent. These guides will help you kind of know where to put the type box here. And do a Command V. And that'll paste it in there. All right, so now I have to do a paragraph style for my body copy. So I'm going to choose the body copy that I want. I'm going to do Fortura, book. Let's do 10 point. Usually 10 points a good standard typeface or Yeah, point size for your typeface. This leading and point size might need to change based upon my baseline grid, so kind of bear with me here. There also needs to be some returns in here. So after center here, you just do a hard return. After operation, hard return. After each tour, hard return. So pay attention to that. It needs to happen. All right, so once that's done, we're going to select all. We're going to go over to paragraph style and do new paragraph style. We're going to name this body copy. And then this should be set to everything that we just did. Futura book, 10 point by 14 point. Click OK. The only thing that I want you guys, and then choose subhead here. It's not doing it right. If that's the case, just double click on your subhead. We have something else going on here. Oh wait, not subhead. You want body copy. That's why it's not doing it. One thing I want you guys to pay attention to is go up to Window, Types and Tables, and choose Paragraph when you're doing your body copy. This is only for body copy. And make sure that this Align to Baseline Grid is chosen. When you choose that, this may happen. Your leading might spread out really far. If that's the case, you'll need to change your typeface in leading. Okay, so let's try 12 point by 10 point. Okay, so that works. And what that's going to do is any type that you have linked or next to it, it's going to shift the baseline so that they're not uneven. So it's super important that that is made in regards to that. Let's try a 9 point by 12. Looks pretty good. All right, so then we'll have to override this. Oops. So we're going to have to choose Control, click on this body copy because there's a little plus sign here, and we're going to redefine style. And that kind of saves the changes there. I'm going to return here. All right, now I'm going to change the ones that say that should be subheads, like the About Us. That needs to be a subhead. Although I don't want these to be centered, so this is going to be a problem. Oh, I guess that's okay. I think that looks pretty good. The next thing is just make sure you don't have any widows. This is a widow here. And how to fix that is you might want to go up to the copy that you think you can do like a shift return, a soft return, and just kind of get that so that you have more than one word on the last sentence there. Everything else looks good. Might do a shift return here. That looks pretty good. So that's the copy there. You might want to do another paragraph style here, a new paragraph style, and just do a bold copy. That's the only thing that you'd probably change, bold condensed. So that it's different than the rest of the type. All right, so then I'll go back to my Word file here and choose the next grouping of copy, which I think the tour facts, all of this information can be, oops, on the left flap. So I do a copy, go back to my InDesign file, pull out my guides here, so I know I'm not uneven with my type tool. Do a box in between. So I want that margin space even with this colored box here, and do a Command V. We don't want that to be right up against that line. Body copy. And again, you can do your bold, oh, sorry, not bold, subhead, if I can get that right. Maybe this would be your bold copy. And then just kind of fix anything that needs to be fixed here. You can even do bold copy for the questions that are placed here. Subhead, bold copy. So it kind of sets it off so it's easier to read. You have some visual things kind of emphasizing certain things. Shift return there. All right, and I can place in images in here. I just haven't been doing that yet, so I just want to keep it simple so you guys can see what's going on here. Any questions so far as to what I'm doing? We go too fast. All right, I'm going to take that as a no and just keep going. All right, let's go back to the Word file. We still have some copy in here that we need to get a hold of here. Okay, good. Thank you, Amanda. All right. So custom adventures, we did all of this copy. So custom adventures, we need all the way down. We don't need about us. Custom adventures here, we need to copy that part. So I'm going to go down to the middle to the right flap here. Let me drag out my guides. And this will take you a little while to get to finish. So don't feel like, you know, I'm kind of doing things really quickly here and you might get frustrated. Hopefully not, but this will take you some time to do. So make sure you have adequate time to work on this. Okay, so I'm going to do a text box, Command V. And typically you link all these boxes together, but because I kind of section these off, I'm probably going to do the opposite of that. So I'm just going to not worry about linking them right now. If you were to link them, all you need to do is choose this little box down here and click and drag and click on the next box. That kind of links your copy boxes there. So body copy, subhead. Okay. Do another text box. I'm not going to show you what I'm pasting here because it takes a while to like flip back and forth. I'm just going to go back to that Word file and copy what I need to for this one. And then go back to that Word file again. Oh, I think I copied too much on that one. Experience. Custom adventures. Hold on one second, guys. I think oh, what did I do here? Oh, I copied that same thing. Okay. That was the wrong copy. So I'm just kind of separating these out in here from the Word file. Okay, and then make sure that these are emphasized here. I'm just kind of working my lines here so that I don't have a widow here. There we go. Okay. The next thing that I'm going to do, I just placed these in here. I'm going to actually go in and grab some photographs. But I want to make sure that these photographs make sense and are consistent on each page. So I'm going to take a horizontal guide and drag it down here. And that'll be kind of the space that will tell me, okay, This is where we're going to have a photograph. This is where we're going to have a photograph. It's going to be the same exact size. So here, I'm going to do an alt drag so it's the same size, and here. So it's consistent. You don't want two different sizes because it's not consistent. It won't look good. So Command D, I'm going to go in and all those, remember all those images that I went through and resize. This is where I'm going to go and choose my extra images here. And make sure, you know, it works for, let me go to object fitting, fill frame proportion. It works with what is being talked about here. Command D, I'm going to find this one because it goes along with the adventures. You see how they're the same exact size. They're aligned perfectly together. So it looks pretty good. I'll pull this down. Now the middle one's going to be a little different. I'm going to align it from the top. I'm going to make it a little bigger. Just a little bit of a difference with this one. Kind of gives a nice little pattern. It's not all the same. And for this one, we're going to go with this little kid here. Object, fitting, fill proportionally. Then I'll just double click on it and move it to the left a little bit. So its head is included in there. The next thing that I want to do is maybe align this subhead with this subhead. So I'm going to draw down a margin guide there and bump this up just a little bit. This filled out a little bit better for me before because I think I had, let me pull this down a little bit. I had a different point size typeface. Try to even this out a little bit, just a little bit too empty down here. Not sure if this is going to work. Let's see. Oh, the photograph is very high res, so it works. It's only 41% as placed in here. So that actually works for that spot. These ones can go a little lower if we, let's see how we can fix these a little bit to fill up the space a little bit better. 79%, that's perfect. 154, this is where it wouldn't work. This is a good example. This is blown up way too big. So what I would do is probably just choose a different image in here altogether that would be placed in there at 100%. I'm not going to worry about that right now just because of time, the time frame here, but that's kind of what I would change there. I would change this out to another photograph. All right. Everything else looks good. Let me take away all the guides and stuff and see what it looks like. I maybe would pull this down a little bit more. A bit more of a image here. All right, so everything looks pretty consistent. I probably will change this T to capital T. There, okay, so for consistency. Everything else looks really good. I could add in a photograph up here too, and also here, because you know it looks pretty good as far as the space goes. So maybe I do an alt drag of this one, so I'm keeping that same ratio. Let's see if that works. Might be too big, we'll see. Yeah, it's too big. So we'll go up a little bit with this one. That looks pretty good. And then what we'll do is either put one down here, or we can even put the logo down here. That could be an option. Just make sure bring the front, center. It's always an option there. So you're kind of filling up that space up there. I think it's pretty balanced and even. Now looking at this, I'm probably gonna pull this out and look a little bit better. All right, so that is it. So just kind of make sure that you're looking at all of your copy and fixing any type of like widows or any type of weird hyphens going on. Make sure you have spaces after each paragraph, spaces or indents. I would go with like spaces. I think it looks better. Make sure you have your subheads in bold, you know, they're emphasized in some way. You have subheads that you might need to treat differently, as I did here. Any questions with that so far? We're going to do an export here for submission. So before we go on, if you have any questions, let me know. Okay. All right. So in the pre-press requirements, or submission requirements, I should say, we have the file size or file name that you need to save it as, so the InDesign file. You're going to export the InDesign file as a press quality PDF. So let's go ahead and do that. So go up to File, and you're going to go to Adobe PDF Presets. Okay, thank you guys. And you're going to go to Press Quality. When this pops up, you're going to save it to wherever you need to save it to. I'm going to save it to the desktop. Just it's easier for me to know where it's at. Click OK, save, and just pay attention to all of this information. We need to change a few things in here, okay? So we want all pages. We don't need spreads, we just need pages. Go to marks and bleeds, and what you're going to choose is you're going to choose crop marks and bleeds. So check those two under marks. And then under bleed and slug, you're going to check use document bleed settings. Okay, then hit export. It might take a little while to export because you have a lot of high-res images in there. So just kind of, you know, make sure that you're aware of that. I'm going to go ahead and open this once it's done here so you can see what it looks like with the bleed and trim marks included. Okay, so here's the PDF that I just did. Zoom out a little bit. There we go. So here's the first page, and notice there's two sets of marks here. So you have your trim and your crop mark. That's what I should be seeing there. So that's the first page, and that's the last page. Or the inside. So front and back. Or inside. Okay. So keep that in, where it's at, that PDF. Because now we have to save this, we have to package this. We delete the top and the top here. So now go back to your InDesign file, go up to File, and go to Package. Just kind of keep in mind everything in here in the summary, your links, and everything's linked. If you have any issues, I'll show you where to look, for those issues. Typefaces are good, links and images. All of these should be CMYK. You might need to scroll through and see if, some might say JPEG. You want them to all say TIFF and CMYK. Colors and inks, as long as you see CMYK, you're good. If you see any spot colors, that's where you need to convert. This looks pretty good. and hit package. If everything looks good, continue. Down here at the very bottom is where I wanted you to pay attention to the no errors. I have a green little light down here. If you have a red little dot, that means there's some there's some issues that need to be fixed there. So, all right, when this pops up, you're gonna make sure that all of these except for the PDF are checked, because you already did a PDF, so you don't need that. So don't check that part. But all of these, copy fonts, copy link graphics, updated links, all this should be checked. I'm gonna put it on my desktop and choose package. That will package all of your typefaces, your links, your images, anything that you have in there, so that if I open up your file or somebody else, say the printer opens your file up, they're not getting missing links or missing typefaces that maybe they don't have. Okay, I'm gonna share my desktop. Lots of messy stuff going on here, so excuse my messes. I just wanted to show you that this is the folder that I just created. Here's the PDF that I created. Okay, so this is that packaged folder. So when I click on it, it shows me my InDesign file. This file is just to show you that I have the file open. It's just telling me that, so just ignore that. Your document fonts are everything that's included, instructions if you had any, and then links, which are all your images or like logo. All right, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your PDF, you're gonna plop it right into that folder. Okay, so it should all be in there with the PDF. Okay, then you're gonna hit Control-click, and then choose Compress, or go up to File, Compress. And that's gonna zip your folder, and that's if you're on a Mac. Okay, so here's the zipped file. This is what you would submit. It's going to be a big file. Command-I will show you how big it is. This is 76.9 megabytes, and it's big for a reason because you have lots of images in there that are high res, so that's normal. So make sure that you are uploading your final files way before the deadline, just in case you have some issues with uploading, because it is a big file. So this is what you would upload for your final file. Okay, any questions or comments? Nope, okay. I did want to show you real quick, because somebody, I think it was Miranda, asked about facing pages. I wanted to show you real quick what that is. Okay, so this is considered just regular page layout. So you have a, 1 and 2 here, and they're up and down. If I were to add a page, it would just kind of consecutively go in a vertical fashion. If I were to change this to, if I were to change this to facing pages, so I go File, Document, Setup, and I'm going to choose facing pages. Watch what happens to my pages now. So now it's almost like it's creating a cover page and a back page with an inside double page spread almost. So this is good for magazine or any type of book publication work where you have a cover and you have an inside spread. There's a binding in the middle. Okay, but we don't necessarily have to have it for this one because we're just working with something that's not really bound. It's just a 2-page document. If it were an advertisement, you wouldn't do facing pages either. Does that make sense? Hopefully. All right, let's go on here because we have one more thing and we're almost out of time. Your assessment, which is kind of easy, so I'm not too worried about it. Your assessment 3, you guys are going to be doing your signage piece for this. So for this assessment, you'll create a sign for the front of the Aqua Excursions building. The sign will be produced from cut vinyl on plastic and then put over lights so it can be easily seen at night. Since the media is cut vinyl, no gradients or images can be used, and all artwork must be vector art. You may use 2 spot colors only, and remember, black is a color. You'll be displaying the use of the following. So the finished sign is 4 feet by 10 feet. create an Illustrator file, scale down to 1 foot equals 1 inch, so it would be 4 inches by 10 inches. Utilize the 2 spot color version of your logo that matches your other campaign components, and utilize only those 2 colors on the sign artwork. Also utilize the Aqua Adventures tag, so this is included, that needs to be included there, that this all this copy here. And be sure to outline all fonts utilized and keep a version without the fonts outlined in case there are revisions. All right, let me go right to the instructions in Canvas here because they're a little lengthier, but pretty much say the same thing. So you're going to read through the background. It's going to kind of explain a little bit about signage and colors. All right, so this pretty much said everything that I just went over. You're going to be using this copy in there, and then submission requirements, just make sure you're paying attention to that. You're going to be doing this in Illustrator. Okay, so that's one of the things, and I don't have my Illustrator open, so give me a minute here. It might take a while. So it's going to be 4 feet by 10 feet for final size, but because we're doing this in Illustrator, we're going to do it at the scale of 1 foot equals 1 inch. So it'll be 4 inches by 10 inches. All right, so let me open up. I didn't have Illustrator open, sorry guys. Let me open up Illustrator here. Okay. I'm just going to share my desktop so you can see what's going on here. I am trying to get this to load. All right, so I'm going to go up to File, New. With it in inches, I'm going to go 10 inches by 4 inches. We'll keep this in RGB for now. Click OK. Okay, geez, I don't know why this is taking so long. I apologize, you guys. This is crazy. All right, so I'm going to take the type tool. I already copied that. Remember that type that was provided in the assessment? I already copied it, so here it is. So it should say kayak tours, sales, and service, and then take out and the website. You don't need that. So it would just be this. Okay, I'm going to select all, and I'm going to center this. I'm going to pull this down here for now. If you use a certain typeface, maybe for your subhead in your print poster and your brochure, you might want to use that same typeface here, so keep that consistency for that body copy there. Let me open up the logo that I created in Illustrator originally. I don't know why this is taking forever, but it's driving me nuts. Huh, okay. Thanks. My logo's here, but I need to open up the original logo. So let me go to our first week here. This is the color wheel. These are the actual logo that I did though. So let me, I'm gonna open up the original logo here. You guys should already have your two variations that you did in week 2. For some reason I didn't save mine. Bad me. So I'm going to change this to work for mine. I didn't even write down like the Pantone colors, but we'll make it work. Oh, here's the AI. I do have it. Okay, it's in there. There we go. The only thing with this is it's 3 colors, and I need it to be 2 colors. So open up the original here. 2 spot colors. So I need to go back, and I need to make this the spot color that they were. So Pantone 3015. Oops, I need this to be spot color. I need this to be, so I'm double clicking, and I'm just changing this to spot color. And I'm just going to change this to blue. So I have 2 colors, they're both spot colors. I'm going to do a file save as, and I'm going to save this as an Illustrator file first. It's already kind of outlined, so I'm good. And then I do a select all copy, and I can just go ahead and bring it right into here. Paste. Hold down the shift key when I'm scaling. You don't have to, it doesn't have to fill this whole thing up. Just make it big enough so you have enough space in the top here. Balance it out. Okay, and then this copy is important. I'm going to change this to Futura because that's what I used in my subheads for my other pieces. Futura condensed. And we'll do bold. And we'll do extra bold maybe for the website here. And we'll make this larger in point size because you want hierarchy to be set with that. Maybe just make this like a medium condensed. There we go. Where's my character box? Go to type, character. And then your spacing in between your leading needs to be adjusted. This doesn't have to be really big, just big enough to see here. And then you can kind of change the colors based on what works. Make this a little bigger. You can even add, see, a very faint line in here just to divide it up. So with the line tool, just select this, you know, you give it that blue or red line color stroke, very thin. There's my stroke up here, yeah. Maybe do like a 0.5, and it kind of separates out visually the two elements here. So it gives a nice little pause. But basically, this is all that you need to do. You don't need to do anything more than this. This is, you know, what needs to be done. So make sure it's balanced out well. You have nice margin spaces that you're paying attention to. You have hierarchy in your type. You have enough visual pause in between that makes sense, and that you're doing the 2-color spot, 2 spot colors within this signage piece. When you're ready to save it, just go File, Save. 14 Assessment 3, your name. Name this just as such on your desktop. I will just place on my desktop. Don't forget you have to outline your typeface now. Your font's down here. The logo's okay, but this copy here needs to be outlined. So select that copy, go up to Type, Create Outlines, and then go File, Save As, because we want to save this as a different file because we can't change it and go back if we don't save it as another, if we don't keep the AI original file. So I'll name this as Outline. So you'll have an outline and a regular layout. So if I say, oh, you should change this, go back to your AI layout, not the outline one, because you won't be able to change this. It's changed from a typeface to a shape. Okay. And then the final needs to be a PDF. So go File, and I think it's Save As a PDF. And you could just do Illustrator default, that's fine. Okay, so then you will be submitting your PDF, submit the version with the fonts outline, and then the version with the fonts outline as well. So basically, here's the PDF. Again, this is your other assignment. So let me slide this over. All right, PDF is where? Right here. Here's the PDF. Oh, one thing I wanted to show you too. Let me open this up. No, it looks good. We're good with that. Okay, so there's the PDF. That looks good. And then you'll just take the outline AI version, and you're going to select these two and do a Control click and compress, or file compress. And then that through, where's my, oh, right here, my zip file. And then you could just name this signage. It doesn't have to have this long name, because once I unzip it, I'll see that you named it accordingly, because these two things will pop out. But this is what you need to submit for your signage piece. Any questions about that? Pretty easy. Pretty easy. Pretty much going to be wrapping it up now. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. If not, you're free to go and start working on this. The trifold might take you a little while, so get started as soon as possible. I will be here tomorrow morning. If you have any issues with anything, I will be in from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Mountain Time. If you are Eastern Standard Time, it is 8 to 10. And that's just for your multi-session. All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks for coming in, and I'll be seeing you on the discussion boards. Let me know if you have any questions. All right. Thank you. Have a great day. Thanks, Amanda.